Word became flesh and dwelt among us, full of grace and truth. This is where our story begins, with Jesus of Nazareth and Mary Magdalene, two individuals bound not just by faith, but by a love that transcended the ordinary. Their love story is often overshadowed by the larger narrative of Jesus' mission, but imagine for a moment the depth of their bond. Mary Magdalene, often misrepresented and misunderstood, was one of Jesus' most devoted followers. She was there through the highs and lows, standing by his side when many others fled. What if this deep connection led to something more profound, something hidden from the pages of history? Imagine a secret union, a love so powerful that it resulted in the birth of a child. A child who would carry forth the legacy of compassion, truth, and hope that Jesus and Mary embodied. This hidden chapter in the lives of Jesus and Mary Magdalene opens up a new realm of possibilities. It challenges us to rethink what we know and invites us to explore the untold stories. Have you ever wondered what other secrets might lie buried in the sands of time? Join us as we delve deeper into this compelling narrative. If you're fascinated by stories like this, don't forget to check out our other videos and subscribe to Celestial Chronicles for more intriguing tales. The birth of Joshua. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. In a small, hidden village nestled in the hills of Judea, far from the prying eyes of the world, Mary Magdalene gave birth to a son. She named him Joshua, a name that meant God is salvation, a name that carried the weight of his father's legacy. Mary knew the dangers surrounding them. The political and religious climate was hostile, and the memory of Jesus' crucifixion was still fresh in the minds of those who feared his influence. To protect her child, Mary chose to live in secrecy, away from the bustling cities and the watchful eyes of Roman soldiers and religious leaders. The early years of Joshua's life were filled with love and care. Mary poured all her wisdom and knowledge into raising him, teaching him about his father's teachings and the importance of compassion, love, and truth. She often recounted stories of Jesus, describing his miracles, his parables, and his unwavering commitment to spreading the message of God's love. From a young age, Joshua exhibited a remarkable presence. He had an innate sense of compassion and a deep curiosity about the world around him. Mary would watch as he played with other children, always showing kindness and understanding. His ability to comfort and uplift those around him was a testament to the legacy of his father. Life in the village was simple. Mary and Joshua lived in a modest home, surrounded by nature. They grew their own food, tended to a small garden, and lived off the land. This life of simplicity allowed Joshua to grow up with a deep appreciation for the natural world and the cycles of life. Mary often used these moments to teach him about the interconnectedness of all things, a lesson that was at the heart of Jesus' teachings. As Joshua grew, he began to notice that his life was different from those of other children. While other families spoke openly about their lives and their past, Mary always spoke in hushed tones when discussing his father. There was a sense of mystery that surrounded his origins, and Joshua's curiosity only grew with time. One day, while exploring the hills near their home, Joshua stumbled upon an old, hidden scroll. The parchment was fragile and worn, but the words were powerful. It spoke of a man who would bring light into the world, a man who would challenge the status quo and inspire a revolution of the heart. Joshua felt a deep connection to the words, as if they were speaking directly to him. Excited and confused, Joshua ran home to show the scroll to his mother. Mary's face turned pale when she saw the scroll. She knew that it contained truths that could change Joshua's life forever. With a heavy heart, she decided it was time to reveal more about his father and the legacy he had left behind. Mary sat Joshua down and began to tell him the story of Jesus in greater detail. She spoke of his birth, his teachings, his miracles, and the immense love he had for all of humanity. She explained how Jesus had challenged the authorities and how his message of love and equality had threatened those in power. As Mary spoke, Joshua listened intently. He felt a mixture of pride and sadness. Pride in the incredible man his father had been, and sadness at the sacrifices he had made. Mary also told him about the betrayal by Judas, a close disciple who had turned against Jesus, leading to his crucifixion. This betrayal weighed heavily on Joshua's heart. How could someone so close to his father cause such pain? Determined to understand the full scope of his heritage, Joshua began to seek out more knowledge about his father and his teachings. He started to ask questions of the villagers, hoping to find someone who had known Jesus. To his surprise, he found several elders who had met Jesus and were willing to share their stories. These elders described Jesus as a man of great wisdom and kindness, someone who had the ability to see into people's hearts and understand their deepest desires and fears. They spoke of his miracles, his teachings, and his unwavering commitment to spreading the message of God's love. Each story brought Joshua closer to understanding his father's legacy and his own role in continuing it. Mary watched as Joshua's quest for knowledge grew. She saw the same fire and determination in him that had drawn her to Jesus. She knew that Joshua was destined for greatness, but she also knew that his path would be fraught with challenges and dangers. The world was still a hostile place for those who carried the message of love and compassion. Despite the risks, Joshua continued to seek out the truth. He spent hours studying the scrolls and listening to the stories of those who had known his father. He felt a deep connection to the teachings and a growing sense of responsibility to carry them forward. As Joshua entered adolescence, his quest for identity became more intense. The hidden scroll had sparked a fire within him, compelling him to seek out more knowledge about his father and his teachings. He often found himself wandering the same paths Jesus once walked, searching for answers. Mary, understanding his need to know, guided him with patience and love. She revealed more about Jesus' mission and the significance of his actions. Joshua learned about the miracles, the parables, and the profound messages of hope and redemption that his father shared with the world. With each passing day, Joshua grew more certain of his purpose. He knew that he was meant to continue his father's work, to spread the message of love and compassion to a world that desperately needed it. He felt a deep sense of duty and a growing resolve to honor his father's legacy. What would you do if you discovered such a profound family secret? Share your thoughts and let's explore this journey together. The journey of self-discovery. Joshua's teenage years were a period of intense self-discovery. The more he learned about his father, Jesus, the more he felt the weight of expectation. How could he live up to the legacy of someone so revered and influential? These questions plagued him as he navigated his young adulthood. Mary, understanding his inner turmoil, did her best to support and guide him. She often told him stories about Jesus, not just the miracles and the teachings, but the quieter moments too. She spoke of Jesus' humility, his laughter, and his deep compassion for even the smallest creatures. These stories painted a fuller picture of his father, not just as a divine figure, but as a man who loved deeply and lived simply. Joshua often found himself wandering the same paths Jesus once walked, searching for answers. He would visit the hills, the olive groves, and the streams that his father might have seen. In these quiet moments of reflection, he felt a deep connection to the land and to his father's spirit. The natural beauty around him became a source of solace and inspiration. During one of these solitary walks, Joshua stumbled upon an old man sitting by a stream. The man was fishing and seemed lost in thought. Intrigued, Joshua approached and struck up a conversation. The old man introduced himself as Simeon, a former disciple who had gone into hiding after Jesus' death. Simeon had been deeply affected by Jesus' teachings and had chosen a life of quiet reflection and meditation. Simeon saw in Joshua the same fire and determination that had drawn him to Jesus years before. Recognizing the boy's thirst for knowledge, Simeon decided to take Joshua under his wing. He began to share with him the practicalities of leadership and survival in a hostile world. Through Simeon, Joshua learned that his father's teachings were not just about spiritual enlightenment but also about navigating the harsh realities of life. Simeon taught Joshua how to read the signs of the times, how to understand the political and social currents that influence people's lives. He showed him how to listen deeply to others, to understand their needs and fears. He also taught him how to protect himself and those he loved, imparting skills that were vital for survival in such turbulent times. With Simeon's guidance, Joshua began to see his path more clearly. He realized that his journey was not about living up to his father's legacy but about forging his own path, guided by the same principles of love and compassion. He started to develop his own voice, his own way of communicating the timeless truths his father had taught. Joshua's quest for identity also took him to the heart of the city, where he could see firsthand the suffering and injustice that Jesus had sought to alleviate. He visited the markets, the synagogues, and the homes of the poor. He spoke to beggars, traders, and soldiers, listening to their stories and learning about their lives. One day, while in the bustling marketplace, Joshua encountered a group of children playing. He watched as they laughed and chased each other, their joy a stark contrast to the struggles of the adults around them. One child, a boy named Eli, caught Joshua's attention. Eli had a bright smile and a lively spirit, but his clothes were tattered, and his eyes held a wisdom beyond his years. Joshua approached Eli and struck up a conversation. He learned that Eli's family was struggling to survive, like many others in the city. The boy's father had been taken by the Roman authorities, leaving his mother to care for him and his siblings. Despite these hardships, Eli remained cheerful and hopeful, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Inspired by Eli's strength, Joshua decided to spend more time with the children of the city. He began to teach them about love, kindness, and the importance of helping one another. These sessions became a source of joy for Joshua, reminding him of his father's love for children and his belief in their potential to create a better world. Through his interactions with the children and the people of the city, Joshua began to understand the true meaning of his father's teachings. It was not about performing miracles or attracting large crowds, it was about touching individual lives, one person at a time. It was about bringing hope and light to those who needed it most. Mary watched with pride as her son stepped into his role. She had always known that Joshua was destined for greatness, but seeing it unfold was both thrilling and terrifying. The dangers that had once threatened Jesus now loomed over Joshua. Despite the risks, Joshua was determined to spread his message. He spoke in marketplaces, synagogues, and open fields, sharing his father's teachings and his own insights. He emphasized the importance of love, forgiveness, and community, drawing from the lessons Mary had instilled in him. His words resonated deeply with those who heard them. People began to gather around him, forming a close-knit community that supported each other through thick and thin. Joshua's presence brought a sense of unity and purpose, inspiring many to take up his cause. However, with growing influence came growing threats. The authorities, both religious and political, saw Joshua as a threat to their control. They began to plot ways to undermine his influence and, if necessary, remove him from the picture. Joshua's journey of self-discovery was far from over. He knew that the road ahead would be filled with challenges, but he also knew that he was not alone. He had the support of his mother, his mentor Simeon, and the growing community of followers who believed in his message. As he looked out over the city from the hills where he often went to reflect, Joshua felt a deep sense of peace. He knew that his father's spirit was with him, guiding him every step of the way. He was ready to face whatever came next, confident in the knowledge that he was fulfilling his destiny. What do you think Joshua should focus on to honor his father's legacy? Let's discuss it in the comments. Challenges and revelations. Joshua's journey was filled with numerous challenges. As he learned more about his father, Jesus, and the legacy he left behind, the weight of expectation grew heavier. Joshua often felt torn between living up to his father's extraordinary reputation and forging his own path. It wasn't easy being the son of a man who was revered by many and feared by others. Mary, his mother, saw the inner struggle Joshua faced. She knew that his path would not be easy and that the dangers Jesus faced were still very real for their family. To help him cope, Mary shared more about Jesus' life, emphasizing his human side, the moments of doubt, the instances of fear, and the times when he sought solitude to pray and reflect. She wanted Joshua to understand that even the greatest figures had moments of vulnerability. Joshua's quest for identity led him to seek out those who had known Jesus. He met with old disciples and followers, eager to hear their stories. One such encounter was with Nathanael, a man who had once traveled with Jesus and witnessed many of his miracles. Nathanael described Jesus not just as a teacher, but as a friend who understood the struggles of everyday life. Nathanael shared a story about a time when Jesus had healed a blind man. But what stuck with Joshua was not the miracle itself, but the compassion Jesus showed. Before healing the man, Jesus took the time to listen to him, to understand his life and his suffering. This deep empathy was what made Jesus so special, Nathanael explained. It wasn't just about the miracles, but about the love and understanding behind them. These stories helped Joshua see his father in a new light. He realized that it wasn't about performing grand miracles, but about touching people's lives with love and compassion. This understanding brought him a sense of peace and purpose. He didn't need to replicate his father's miracles, he needed to embody his father's teachings in his own unique way. However, Joshua's path was not without external threats. The political and religious authorities of the time were constantly on the lookout for any remnants of Jesus' influence. They feared the rise of another figure who could rally the masses and challenge their power. This made Joshua's mission even more dangerous. One day, while Joshua was speaking to a small group of followers in the marketplace, he noticed a man watching him from a distance. The man had a stern look and wore the robes of a Roman official. Joshua continued his speech, emphasizing the importance of love and unity, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. After the gathering, the man approached Joshua. He introduced himself as Marcus, a centurion who had been tasked with monitoring any potential threats to Roman rule. Marcus was blunt, warning Joshua that his teachings were attracting too much attention. "Your father was a great man," Marcus said, "but his influence caused a lot of unrest. Be careful, Joshua. Not everyone will understand your message." Joshua thanked Marcus for the warning but remained undeterred. He knew that the path he had chosen was fraught with danger, but he also knew that he couldn't turn back. He was determined to continue spreading his message of love and compassion, even if it meant risking his own safety. As time went on, Joshua faced increasing opposition. Religious leaders, threatened by his growing influence, began to spread rumors about him. They questioned his legitimacy and accused him of blasphemy. Some even claimed that he was trying to usurp the religious authority of the temple. These accusations created a hostile environment for Joshua and his followers. Despite these challenges, Joshua's resolve only grew stronger. He continued to teach, often in secret, to small groups of people who were eager to hear his message. He spoke about the importance of love, forgiveness, and helping those in need. He emphasized that true power came not from domination, but from compassion and understanding. One evening, as Joshua and his followers gathered in a secluded grove, he shared a vision he had during a moment of deep meditation. In his vision, he saw a world where people of all backgrounds lived in harmony, united by their common humanity. He saw communities where love and compassion were the guiding principles, where no one was judged by their status or wealth, but by the goodness of their hearts. This vision deeply moved his followers. It gave them hope and a sense of purpose. They saw in Joshua a leader who could guide them towards a better future, a future where the teachings of Jesus could be fully realized. Inspired by his vision, Joshua's followers became even more dedicated to spreading his message. Joshua's teachings began to take root in unexpected places. He visited leper colonies, offering comfort and care to those who had been cast out by society. He spoke to women and children, who were often overlooked in the patriarchal society of the time. His inclusive approach attracted many who had felt marginalized and forgotten. One day, Joshua met Miriam, a young woman who had been shunned by her family and community due to an illness. Miriam was living on the outskirts of the city, surviving on scraps and the kindness of strangers. When Joshua found her, she was weak and close to despair. He sat with her, listened to her story, and offered her words of hope. With Joshua's support, Miriam began to recover. She became one of his most devoted followers, using her own experience of suffering to help others. Miriam's transformation became a powerful testament to the impact of Joshua's teachings. Her story spread, bringing more people to Joshua's gatherings. However, with growing influence came growing threats. The authorities, both religious and political, saw Joshua as a threat to their control. They began to plot ways to undermine his influence and, if necessary, remove him from the picture. One night, Joshua had a dream where he saw himself standing before a large crowd. He was speaking passionately about love and unity, but the crowd was divided. Some were cheering, others were jeering, and a group of menacing figures stood in the shadows, plotting his downfall. When he awoke, Joshua knew that his mission was entering a critical phase. Determined to prepare his followers for the challenges ahead, Joshua called a meeting with his closest disciples. He spoke to them about the importance of staying true to their values, no matter the cost. He reminded them that their mission was not just about spreading a message, but about living it in their everyday lives. As tensions rose, Joshua and his followers prepared for the inevitable confrontation. They knew that the path to change was fraught with danger, but they were willing to face it head-on. Joshua's courage and conviction inspired his followers to stand firm in their beliefs. Despite the growing threats, Joshua's community continued to thrive. They created networks of support, helping each other in times of need and standing together against external pressures. Joshua's presence brought a sense of unity and purpose, inspiring many to take up his cause. Joshua's journey of self-discovery was far from over. He knew that the road ahead would be filled with challenges, but he also knew that he was not alone. He had the support of his mother, his mentor Simeon, and the growing community of followers who believed in his message. As he looked out over the city from the hills where he often went to reflect, Joshua felt a deep sense of peace. He knew that his father's spirit was with him, guiding him every step of the way. He was ready to face whatever came next, confident in the knowledge that he was fulfilling his destiny. What do you think Joshua should focus on to honor his father's legacy? Let's discuss it in the comments. The rising hope. Joshua's emergence as a leader did not go unnoticed. As his words of love, compassion, and unity began to spread, more and more people gathered around him. They saw in him not just the son of Jesus, but a beacon of hope in a world filled with suffering and injustice. His presence brought a sense of purpose to those who had felt lost or forgotten. Mary watched with a mixture of pride and concern. She had always known that Joshua was destined for greatness, but the reality of seeing him step into his role was both thrilling and terrifying. She remembered all too well the dangers that had once threatened Jesus, and she knew those same threats loomed over her son. Despite her fears, she supported Joshua wholeheartedly, offering him guidance and wisdom whenever he needed it. Joshua's teachings were simple yet profound. He spoke of the power of love to heal wounds, both physical and emotional. He encouraged his followers to forgive those who had wronged them and to seek reconciliation instead of revenge. His words resonated deeply with people from all walks of life. Farmers, fishermen, merchants, and even some soldiers found solace and inspiration in his message. One of Joshua's most devoted followers was a young man named Caleb. Caleb had grown up in a small village, working the land with his family. Life had been hard, and the oppressive taxes and harsh treatment from Roman soldiers had left him bitter and angry. When he first heard Joshua speak, something inside him changed. Joshua's words of hope and love melted the anger in his heart and gave him a new sense of purpose. Caleb became one of Joshua's closest disciples, traveling with him from village to village, spreading the message of love and unity. He admired Joshua's ability to connect with people, to see their pain, and to offer them comfort. Caleb learned from Joshua not just through his words but through his actions. He watched as Joshua healed the sick, comforted the grieving, and stood up to those who sought to oppress others. One day, while traveling through a particularly troubled region, Joshua and his followers came across a group of outcasts living on the outskirts of a village. These people had been shunned by their community due to various ailments and conditions, and they lived in squalor, barely surviving on what little they could find. Joshua was deeply moved by their plight. He sat with them, listened to their stories, and offered them words of comfort and hope. Seeing the desperation in their eyes, Joshua decided to stay with them for a while. He and his followers helped to clean their makeshift homes, brought them food and water, and treated their wounds. Joshua's presence brought a sense of dignity and worth to these outcasts, something they had not felt in a long time. He taught them that they were loved and valued, regardless of what society thought of them. Word of Joshua's actions spread quickly, and soon people from the village began to take notice. At first, they were skeptical, but as they saw the changes in the outcasts, their curiosity grew. Some villagers began to visit the outcasts, bringing food and supplies. Slowly but surely, the barriers between the outcasts and the rest of the village started to break down. Joshua's influence continued to grow, and with it, the threats from the authorities became more pronounced. The religious leaders, feeling their power threatened, intensified their efforts to discredit him. They spread rumors that Joshua was a false prophet, that he was trying to lead people astray. They accused him of blasphemy and heresy, hoping to turn the public against him. Despite these efforts, Joshua's message of love and unity only grew stronger. His followers were fiercely loyal, and they saw through the lies and deceit of the authorities. They stood by Joshua, defending him against the accusations and spreading his message even further. One evening, as Joshua and his followers gathered in a secluded grove, he spoke to them about the challenges they were facing. He acknowledged the growing threats but urged them to remain steadfast in their commitment to love and compassion. He reminded them that their mission was not just about spreading a message but about living it in their everyday lives. Joshua's words inspired his followers, filling them with renewed determination. They knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but they were ready to face whatever came their way. They saw themselves as part of a larger movement, one that had the potential to bring about real change in the world. In the following months, Joshua's community continued to grow. People from all over Judea came to hear him speak, drawn by the power of his message. They brought with them stories of suffering and hardship, but also of hope and resilience. Joshua listened to each one, offering words of comfort and encouragement. One of the most memorable moments during this time was when a Roman centurion named Lucius came to see Joshua. Lucius had been a loyal soldier, dedicated to the Roman Empire. But over time, he had become disillusioned with the brutality and injustice he witnessed. He had heard about Joshua and was curious to learn more about his teachings. Lucius approached Joshua with caution, unsure of what to expect. Joshua greeted him with kindness, inviting him to sit and talk. As Lucius shared his story, Joshua listened intently, never judging, only offering understanding and empathy. Lucius was deeply moved by Joshua's compassion and began to question everything he had believed in. Over time, Lucius became a follower of Joshua. He left his position in the Roman army and dedicated himself to spreading the message of love and unity. His transformation was a powerful testament to the impact of Joshua's teachings and served as an inspiration to many others. However, as Joshua's influence grew, so did the threats against him. The authorities, both religious and political, saw him as a significant threat to their control. They began to plot ways to undermine his influence and, if necessary, remove him from the picture altogether. One night, while Joshua and his closest followers were gathered for a meal, he spoke to them about the importance of staying true to their values, no matter the cost. He reminded them that their mission was not just about spreading a message, but about living it in their everyday lives. Joshua's words were a call to action, a reminder that their journey was far from over. They knew that the challenges ahead would be great, but they were ready to face them head-on. They were united in their commitment to love and compassion, and they knew that together, they could make a difference. As Joshua looked out over his followers, he felt a deep sense of peace. He knew that his Father's Spirit was with him, guiding him every step of the way. He was ready to face whatever came next, confident in the knowledge that he was fulfilling his destiny. What do you think Joshua should focus on to honor his father's legacy? Let's discuss it in the comments. The legacy continues. As tensions escalated, Joshua and his followers prepared themselves for the inevitable confrontation with the authorities. They knew that their mission to spread love and compassion would not be easy, but their commitment to the cause was unwavering. The sense of unity among them grew stronger as they faced the growing threats together. Joshua's community had become a sanctuary for those seeking hope and guidance. People from all walks of life came to hear him speak, drawn by his profound wisdom and gentle demeanor. Among his followers were former soldiers, tax collectors, and women who had been marginalized by society. Joshua's message resonated deeply with them, offering a sense of belonging and purpose. One of Joshua's closest followers was Miriam, a woman who had once been shunned by her community due to an illness. Miriam's life had changed dramatically since she met Joshua. She had found not only physical healing but also emotional and spiritual renewal. Her gratitude for Joshua's kindness fueled her dedication to his mission. Miriam became an influential figure within the community, often organizing gatherings and helping those in need. Joshua's teachings were simple yet profound. He emphasized the importance of love, forgiveness, and helping others. He often told parables to illustrate his points, making complex ideas accessible to everyone. One of his most beloved parables was about a shepherd who had 100 sheep and lost one. The shepherd left the 99 to search for the lost one, rejoicing when he found it. This story highlighted the value of every individual and the importance of compassion and persistence. The authorities, both religious and political, were increasingly alarmed by Joshua's growing influence. They saw him as a threat to their power and control. The religious leaders, in particular, were incensed by Joshua's criticism of their hypocrisy and corruption. They accused him of blasphemy and sought ways to discredit him. One day, Joshua and his followers were in the marketplace when a group of religious leaders confronted him. They challenged him with difficult questions, hoping to trap him into saying something they could use against him. Joshua, however, responded with calm and wisdom. He turned their questions back on them, exposing their hypocrisy and leaving them speechless. The crowd, witnessing this exchange, grew even more supportive of Joshua. Despite the increasing hostility from the authorities, Joshua's message continued to spread. His followers, inspired by his courage and conviction, took his teachings to other towns and villages. They shared stories of healing, forgiveness, and the transformative power of love. These stories resonated with people who were tired of living under oppression and longing for a message of hope. One evening, as Joshua and his closest followers gathered for a meal, he spoke to them about the challenges they were facing. He acknowledged the growing threats but urged them to remain steadfast in their commitment to love and compassion. He reminded them that their mission was not just about spreading a message but about living it in their everyday lives. Joshua's words were a call to action, a reminder that their journey was far from over. They knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but they were ready to face it together. They were united in their commitment to making the world a better place, one act of kindness at a time. As Joshua looked around the room at his devoted followers, he felt a deep sense of peace. He knew that they were more than just a group of individuals, they were a community bound by love and a shared purpose. He felt his Father's Spirit guiding him, reassuring him that they were on the right path. The authorities, however, were determined to stop Joshua. They began to plot ways to arrest him and put an end to his influence. One of Joshua's followers, a man named Judas, had become disillusioned and decided to betray him. Judas went to the religious leaders and agreed to help them capture Joshua in exchange for 30 pieces of silver. The night before his arrest, Joshua gathered his closest followers for a meal, much like the Last Supper Jesus had shared with his disciples. He spoke to them about the importance of staying true to their values, no matter the cost. His words were filled with love and hope, even as he sensed the impending danger. Joshua's arrest came swiftly and without warning. He was taken before the religious leaders, who accused him of blasphemy and demanded his execution. Despite the threats and the brutality of his captors, Joshua remained calm and composed. He knew that his mission was larger than his own life and that his teachings would continue to inspire others long after he was gone. The news of Joshua's arrest spread quickly, and his followers were filled with fear and uncertainty. Mary, his mother, was heartbroken but resolute. She knew that Joshua's work must continue, and she took it upon herself to keep his message alive. With the help of Miriam and other devoted followers, Mary organized secret gatherings to share Joshua's teachings and to support one another in their grief. Despite the authorities' efforts to silence him, Joshua's influence only grew stronger. His followers, galvanized by his courage and sacrifice, were more determined than ever to spread his message. They traveled to distant towns and villages, telling stories of Joshua's love and compassion and urging people to live by his example. As time went on, Joshua's legacy became a powerful force for change. His teachings of love, forgiveness, and unity resonated with people from all walks of life, inspiring them to stand up against injustice and to create communities based on compassion and mutual support. The movement he started continued to grow, touching the hearts and minds of countless individuals. Joshua's story was not one of defeat but of enduring spirit. His legacy lived on through his followers, who carried his teachings into the future. They built a community where love and compassion were the guiding principles, creating a lasting impact on the world. Mary, reflecting on her son's life, felt a deep sense of pride and peace. She knew that Joshua had fulfilled his destiny and that his message would continue to inspire generations to come. The hidden legacy of Jesus and Mary Magdalene lived on through their son, a testament to the power of love and the resilience of the human spirit. And so, we leave you with this story of hidden love, courage, and unwavering faith. What lessons do you take from Joshua's journey? Share your reflections in the comments, and don't forget to check out our other videos for more captivating stories. Join the Celestial Chronicles community and be a part of our journey into the mysteries of history. Thank you for watching, and remember, the most profound stories are often those that remain hidden until we seek them out.